Hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you have a nice warm beverage in hand as you log in here to today's webinar. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, and I would love to hear where you're tuning in from and what you're hoping to get out of today's webinar. I'm tuning in from Portland, Oregon, where we are in full fall mode and weather is changing rapidly, and I'm enjoying it. It's been a nice change of pace. So again, as you trickle in, I'd love to hear from you in the chat where you're tuning in from and what you're hoping to get out of the webinar today. And we'll give it a few minutes here. Hey, Olivia. Thanks for joining today from New Mexico. I was just talking to Catherine about Thanksgiving plans. I can't believe we're already here at the holiday season. Hi, Kelly from Texas. You want a job doing something you love? Awesome. Hi, Casey. Working on your business venture, would like to look at holistic health field. Awesome. Patricia from Colorado. Just interested in what I have to say. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. And Hillary from St. Helens, looking for opportunities for finding work, job boards, etc. Awesome. Thank you all for adding in that additional information. It's really helpful so I know what you're all hoping to gain today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And before we kind of dig in, just some housekeeping. Um, you'll notice your line has been your line has been recorded. Your line has been muted because we are recording this webinar today, and you will receive an email recording sent to you later on today. So if you miss anything or want to click on any of the links that I share, you will have access to that. And today we're really going to talk about the job search, but also the industry, the current market, what to expect, how to get creative. And I really want to have a conversation around this. In my role, I talk to hundreds of students and alumni, and many of them are looking for jobs currently and are having a really tough time. A lot of people are turning in hundreds of applications and not hearing back, and it can really chip away at confidence. It can really, you know, it can just not feel so great when you need employment and you're having a hard time finding it. So today, I really want to have an honest conversation about where the job market is and how we can find some alternative ways to tap into the job market as well. So that being said, I love honest conversation. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what's working for you, what's not. And as I start to present on these topics, I'd love your comments and questions. We will stop and answer questions along the way. And so, yeah, keep those comments coming. So I am Felicia Royce. I am the Director of Alumni and Career Services here with ACHS. And if I haven't talked to you yet individually, I'd love to schedule a time to meet with you and talk with you about your individual goals. I've been with ACHS for roughly about 10 years off and on. And I absolutely love what I do. I'm very passionate about holistic health and helping students and alumni find their path in this field. So I look forward to meeting you if I haven't yet. And I'm joined today with our wonderful content marketing specialist, Catherine Swery. She's going to be kind of offline in the background. She's going to be making sure things are working for us with technology. And then she might be popping in and putting some links in the chat or, directing questions to me as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd say it might be helpful because we're going to be going over a lot of information. If you have maybe a note taker that you can use on your computer or maybe old school paper and pen, I really want you to walk away with some, valuable information. So I would love to know too before I get started. Some of you had mentioned, kind of what your goals are. Are any of you here attending today looking for a job currently? And if so, if you're willing to share how that's going for you, I'd love to hear. Hillary said yes. Okay. So keep those comments coming because I'd love to know just how it's been going for you in the search. So, as we get started here, I think the most important thing to do when you are looking for employment is to do your market research, of course. Uh, Talk to me, kind of figure out, what direction you might want to go in the integrative health field, but also taking some real personal inventory and figuring out, you know, what are you really looking for? And I like to kind of reverse engineer the process and not just starting with job boards, but also thinking about what are some companies or organizations that you really respect. Maybe you have a friend that works for one that you've heard great things about or has a great company culture. Or maybe you've been following a botanical company for years and love what they offer. Sometimes it's easier to start with figuring out where you might, you know, fit, what aligns with your passions. So, even just using kind of paper and pen, really kind of digging into that internal, what are you looking for? What's important to you? Do you need to work from home? Do you want to be around like-minded people? Do you need autonomy? Right? Those types of things. And if, oops, sorry. And, oop, Sorry about that. If you are thinking about working for a specific company, instead of going to a job board, I would highly recommend going straight to their careers page. Or if you have a LinkedIn, following them on LinkedIn and looking at their job board on their LinkedIn profile. So, thinking about that, where does your passion lie? If you are somebody who really cares about nutrition. How does that play out professionally? What about nutrition are you passionate about, right? So kind of getting more granular. What transferable skills do you already have? So I know many of you are career changers. So you are maybe working in a different field now, or you've worked in different industries in the past, and this is going to be a complete change for you. That can feel really scary and intimidating, doing, something completely different, going to school for something completely different. And I think it's important to identify what are the skills that you already have that can transfer into this industry, right? There's certain credentials that you have to have, like a degree, but there are a lot of skills that can transfer over and that you can really highlight. And I think it's important to also think about your story. What makes you unique? What is your unique value proposition? What stories do you bring with you into the job search? So I often hear, I found this really great job and I want to apply for it, but I don't think I qualify. I don't think I have the skills yet. And then I look at the job description and I'm working with the alumni or the student and I'm thinking you would be a perfect fit for this position. I think we come in with our own personal bias and history and, you know, just things that we've kind of brought with us in our past. And we bring in our own stories into this process, right? And sometimes that can be a positive thing. And sometimes we might need to reframe what we think about our skills and how they apply to what we're wanting to apply for. So I'm going to dig into that more in just a minute here. And then also, if you've met with me, I'm a big advocate for networking and how that can be really a valuable part of the job search. And so I think just taking inventory, who do you currently know? So not who are you going to meet in the future, but looking at your current network, where are those like-minded people? Who do you know that works in the industry or maybe has a position that you would love to go for one day? And just, taking inventory of that. Okay. I'm just looking in the comments here. Kelly said, complete change over here. I am a nurse. Yes. But I would say you definitely have those transferable skills and you definitely are part of the health industry now. You're just shifting, right? So those are some of those things that I would help you with your resume is how do we highlight those holistic skills that you are currently obtaining? So, as far as industry trends, um, going back to the comment that I had made earlier, just about, you know, hundreds of applications going in and not hearing anything back or being ghosted after an interview. These are very typical things. And if it's happening to you, I just want to mention that you're not alone and that it's not you. You're not doing anything wrong. So if you're feeling like you're kind of stuck, the market is in an interesting place, is a good way to put it. So the integration of AI, the technology being used to vet resumes and applications, the automation process, that's really changed the dynamic. And quite honestly, there are even fake job postings out there. I'm sure you've heard of employment scams. There's a lot that we have to kind of filter through when we're looking at job boards to even get to quote unquote real opportunities, right? And then when we find those real opportunities and we apply, we're up against hundreds of applicants and in a computer system, an application tracking system looking for keywords. So that's part of why we feel a little flooded. When we apply for a job and we see that 200 other people have applied for the same job, we're not hearing back. We feel like our application materials are just kind of falling into a black hole. And these companies are being flooded, right? With even some of the people that are applying for the position aren't really people at all, right? They're computer systems using AI and taking up space in those application kind of buckets, so to speak. So that definitely has an impact. Different skills are being needed, and there's increased competition. So if you've watched the news recently, you know there have been a lot of layoffs, a lot of companies are downsizing. We're using, technology in a different way. And so those positions that used to be entry level now have not just entry level candidates applying. And that can increase the competition and it can, again, flood the job market. I had alluded to the application tracking system. Those processes are changing, and the way that we apply for jobs is changing. There are so many different job boards out there. How do you even choose which one to go to, right? And how do you know what's real and what's not? Recruiters aren't as available as they used to be, and it depends on the industry that you're in. And then just the reduced hiring due to economic uncertainty, where there are big changes and layoffs. You've seen this in history, right? We've had some economic downturns, some job market downturns historically. I definitely think we're going to kind of go back up, the other direction at some point. But right now, we're kind of in that lull. Now, I want to kind of offset everything I just said, which seems a little gloom and doom, and really just focus on the fact that the integrative health industry is actually growing. Year over year, we are a growing industry. That being said, um, I don't know how many of you, again, I like to hear from other people. How many of you have tried looking for integrative health jobs? And if so, share your experience on how that's going for you. Kelly said that she has definitely had some scams. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, so Hillary said not many out there locally. Yeah, so Casey said I've looked on Indeed or LinkedIn, there's not much available. Right. So you see the trend here. There's a little bit of I almost said contraindication. My health and wellness brain. There's a little bit of conflict there, right? So we are a growing industry, but we don't see jobs out there necessarily. We see a lot of registered dietitian positions, we see pharmacy position, acupuncture positions, but we need holistic and integrative health professionals more than ever. So why is that? And what I can tell you from my professional kind of standpoint on this is that this is all part of the hidden job market. So this is going to change over time, and I think we will eventually see more positions out there on job boards, but this is all still being integrated, right? So the global wellness industry is large and it's growing, but there's a lot of individuals running very small businesses and slowly integrating into hospitals and into clinics and things of that nature. So we see more research in this industry, which is definitely giving more evidence-based, um, you know, information to the allopathic healthcare system, saying, look, there is a need for these, you know, complementary alternative and integrative modalities. But that is a slow moving process, right? For everyone to kind of get on board. But integrative medicine is becoming more accepted. More insurance companies are covering naturopaths and other integrative therapies like acupuncture, and clients these days are more likely to look for holistic based providers and care. So I think that there is a lot of there's a lot of positive things coming in this industry in terms of looking for positions, but right now we have to kind of meet the industry where it's at. So we have to get creative. We have to put on that kind of think outside of the box hat because people can be extremely successful. I've seen it. I've talked to people. I've written dozens of blogs on the subject. I know that people can be really wildly successful in integrative health and working in this field, but it's going to be a little different than just being on job boards, right? It's going to look a little different. Your entry point or your point of entry, getting your foot in the door might be a little non-linear. So I'm going to look at the comments here. Casey said people are starting their own practices. Olivia said, I really want to practice naturopathic medicine and acupuncture. That's amazing. Mm. Kelly said, not too much available. Looking to start your own business, thinking of starting your own business. So, and Casey said, you have to establish your own self in the industry and then maybe work with clients and dietitians, et cetera. Exactly. So a lot of professionals choose to go out on their own and they choose to build their own practice because they have more autonomy and they're able to provide the services to their clients and community because those jobs aren't currently robust, especially if you live in a rural area or you're somewhere where holistic health is still, being integrated into the community. So we're going to talk more about that and I have some ideas as to other ways that you can do that besides just building a business, right? So we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Thank you all for your comments. It's really helpful to see kind of where you're at with this process as well. So the key areas of growth in this industry are workplace wellness and employee wellness programs. So working for insurance companies, working for HR departments and their benefits um, sectors, being a part of initiating employee wellness programs. Um, Employers are investing in their employees' health and wellness. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. But there are more and more positions out there that I see every day in this industry in workplace wellness to be specific. Um, so there's a lot of up and coming apps. There are a lot of startup companies. There's a lot of pathways in this particular field that I could help you find. And those are on job boards, right? And we'll talk about credentialing here in a minute, but credentialing and level of education do play a role in that. So healthy aging, longevity, and preventative wellness, huge area of growth. We have more care facilities now, I think, than ever. We have an aging population. A lot of these agencies that work with the elderly or the aging population are really interested in lifestyle-based interventions and quality of life. There are positions at care facilities where you can be part of the wellness team. You can lead wellness events. It's really awesome. I have a friend that does this for a living and absolutely loves their job. So that's a point of entry as well. Mind, body, mental health, and spiritual wellness. Holistic mental health, that is definitely kind of looking at the spectrum of mind, body, spirit. Obviously, you can't be a therapist or a psychiatrist or psychologist without a license, but I think there is room for bringing in these pieces into the industry, looking at things like the integration of herbal medicine and aromatherapy and other kind of mind-body therapies. And the need for this and the request for this is rapidly rising. So just something to think about. Nutrition is mental health, gut-brain connection, definitely a hot topic right now. Definitely a lot of research being done. Neurobiology, looking at again, kind of the brain-body connection. Um, I see more interest than ever in that facet of holistic health as well. And then, of course, wellness tourism. So, I probably get an email a day on different retreats because I've subscribed to all these different health and wellness events and organizations. But retreats are a really big thing right now. So if you're somebody who wants to travel or kind of step outside of the box and put together travel experiences for people centered around health and wellness, that is definitely a growing industry as well. I'd be curious to know anyone that's here attending today if you're interested in any of these particular pathways. Feel free to comment. Rich said the request for this type of work at the VA facilities is growing. Yes, absolutely, Rich. Thank you so much for saying that. I was just reading that the VA has dedicated specific funding and or like a department that is really around integrative health, and they are hiring health coaches as well. So if you're interested in working with veterans, that might be something to really tap into. So thank you so much for mentioning that. Casey said these help a lot with organizing everything I'd like to offer people. Awesome. I'm glad. Cool. So I had mentioned like let's get creative. Let's put on that creative hat and let's step outside of the job boards. And I think one thing that I see a lot of is brand building. And that's we think of that as like if you have your own business, right? You have to build a brand, you have to be on Instagram and you have to be able to be on TikTok and all of these things. But really, I think it's more nuanced than that. Building an online presence that really showcases your skills by building a portfolio. If you're a writer and you are really proud of, let's say, your dissertation, if you're a doctoral student, or your thesis, if you're a master's student, or anything that you've done in school that you're really proud of, keep it in a portfolio. Have that portfolio link available on your LinkedIn page. If you have been involved with organizations or volunteerism, if you started a website, you can have a link tree so people can learn more about you. Because the thing is, when somebody is just looking at a resume or an application, they're just looking at these are the things that I've done, these are the skills that I have, but they don't really tie it to an actual person. They don't know you, they don't know, you know, who you are, what your story is. And so if there's a way for them to easily click on a link and learn more or have some sort of like face to a name, right? And maybe like a video, like a short 1 minute long video that really kind of highlights, your passions and what you're bringing to the industry. That can make a really big difference, and can really set you apart from other applicants. So we want to try to start thinking about getting off of just paper, right? And really starting to build a brand for ourselves, even if we're looking for work, not just as a business owner. So really visibility is key. We're going to talk about LinkedIn, of course, but LinkedIn is definitely a great way to connect. And if you need any help with your LinkedIn and getting that, really visible and being able to really tell your story, let me know. I'd be happy to help you with that. Have any of you done any type of video resume, or do you produce any content? I'd love to know if anyone here feels comfortable with that. Not yet. Yeah, so I think having some sort of video, whether that's in your portfolio that you're sharing or on your LinkedIn or on your personal um, like Instagram page that you might use for if you are a business owner, having somewhere to share your story is really important. I think this can be an industry where you can hear the word health coach. And what does that really mean, right? Like there are so many people calling themselves health coaches. How do we share, you know, all the education and experience and knowledge that we have, and how is it different? And how do we tie ourselves to it? I just went to a conference and I heard all of these amazing speakers that are green companies, right? That are sustainable companies, and they talked about what was the what was the catalyst for them going into their particular business or their organization? How did they develop that? And one person had learned about the amount of waste, right? That there's just like way too much plastic, way too much waste. Our earth is suffering because of it. And it really prompted her to start a business where she made bamboo tableware, like really high end, that's fully compostable. And she shared her whole story and she shared her why. And she didn't just say, this is what I do and this is my business. It was like you could relate to her, right? So I think we need to start getting out a relatable story as to who we are, and if you're struggling with how to get started with that, you can use some of those acronyms like STAR. What situation have you been faced with? What tasks have you done? What actions? What was the result of that? Or what was the challenge, the action, and the result? Or what did you do? How did you do it? And what was the outcome? So those are some things to kind of help you with a framework around something very succinct where you talk about how you helped a company or a person solve a problem and why you're passionate about it and how, it relates to you and your journey. Is that all making sense so far? Patricia said, I've experimented with video content. Casey said, what if it's related to not being helped in the present healthcare system? I feel like that's a bit rebellious. I feel like actually that can be really powerful. I think it's important not to, there's a distinction of like venting versus sharing a really kind of vulnerable piece, right? Like, I think if you have had to endure something really hard and you found a solution to help yourself, somebody's going to hear that and have hope for themselves, right? So, anger over a system that wants to keep us sick. Yeah, I mean, use that fuel, right? But I think it's tricky because it's also in how we package that. Um, we have our right to feel angry for sure, but I would just use that fuel to really kind of explain your passion and explain how you found a solution and how you can help others find a solution. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing such a vulnerable thing too, because I think that drives a lot of students' passion for starting school here. So, Um, has anyone here ever worked with a recruiter? Have you ever received a job offer using a recruiter? I'm also interested in knowing more about the audience in that regard. Olivia used Indeed. How has that been going for you? I want to know, how has Indeed been working for you? Yeah, Hillary, you haven't used a recruiter. Yeah. Recruiting is definitely industry specific. So you'll see a lot of recruiters for healthcare, but not necessarily for integrative health. Um, you can reach out to recruiters. So you can use LinkedIn to find recruiters. And actually, for some positions, you'll see that you'll see the position and then you'll see who is hiring, and it's usually a recruiter. And I think it's important to reach out to those recruiters and start the conversation, especially if they're the ones handling the hiring process. Um, Maybe I could show you an example. Let me show this to you. Mhm. So this is a position that I just found this morning when I was looking for a position for somebody. It's a wellness program coordinator. You can see how many people applied. You can see what the job description is, right? So you can kind of see what this is all about, and you can see the recruiter's information. This is the person that's actually going to be facilitating the hiring. You can actually go to this person's hiring page and you can send them a message. Now, it should not just be, hi, I want a job here, right? Or, hey, I want this, I want that. It really should be kind of three simple things. It should be very succinct, and it should be, why are you interested in the company? And literally you can go learn about the company, right? Like you can figure out like what is their mission? How would you, how would your values really align with that? And maybe there's something specific that they do that you're really excited about. So, you know, you can kind of start off with, I saw that you have a really amazing um, team culture and helping people with health and wellness consulting. And then the next would be how your skills would apply to that position. I am currently a health coach with 5 years of experience. I'm also a wellness strategist, and I would love to set up a time to talk with you. Here are the 3 times I'm available this week. So be very specific and give 3 different options. So it's not just saying, hi, can I pick your brain? It's being very specific and having a call to action. Now, I will say this was very lucky that this was set up this way. If you don't have a LinkedIn Premium, then you cannot message everybody. So in LinkedIn Premium, I believe is $30 a month. It's not cheap. If you are a job seeker that is really like in it and having a hard time finding a position, it might be worthwhile to set it up for a little while. But that is one kind of unfortunate thing, is that you can't always reach out to everyone if you don't have a premium account. But in this case, you can. You can also go directly to their website and see if they have a careers page and or a directory. So yeah, is that helpful, hopefully, to see? Okay. I'm waiting for my chat box to pop back up here. So that's how I'd recommend, instead of just getting on job boards and blindly applying for positions where they don't know you, you don't really know them, I would try to make more specific connections. So I would actually try this process. Maybe you apply for the job and then go find them on LinkedIn, whoever's, whether it's a recruiter or an employer that is hiring for that position. You can reach out to them right after you apply and let them know when you applied and that you're really excited to talk to them. So you're making that connection. And then I had talked earlier, and I'm so sorry, my chat box kind of went away. I'm hoping it pops back up here. So I'm sorry if you're posting anything and I can't see it. Hopefully that'll pop up soon. But I was talking about earlier, like building your own business, and we had discussed this a little bit in the chat, that sometimes if you can't find a role where you live, you take matters into your own hands and build your own business, right? Obviously, you have to follow your state scope of practice, and you have to make sure that you are setting up your business um, professionally and doing it the right way. Um, getting all of the things in place, like your LLC, if that's what you're going to do, or, registering your business with your state. But there are different ways to think about running a business, right? So, um, you can focus on more independent contracting. And so, what I mean by that is sometimes somebody thinks about building a business, which means you have to do all the marketing yourself, you have to find all of your own clients, you have to um, run everything by yourself in terms of, figuring out your financial projections, making your own products, et cetera, et cetera. But what I would encourage you to think about is where is there an established co-op? So the yoga center down the street from my house, that yoga center, they offer all sorts of services. So obviously they offer yoga, but they have a nutritionist, a massage therapist, a colon health specialist. They have like all these different practitioners within that building, and they all rent space and share space and refer back and forth to each other. So if that feels better to you than actually building your own business and having everything be kind of on your own island, I think, doing that reverse engineering and finding out what is near me, where are there wellness centers that I might want to be a part of, where can I find a space where I might be able to get referrals for clients. Maybe that does entail renting a space, but at least you're kind of built in. And I will say, as somebody who's worked as part of a co-op, it's nice to have people to talk to and be around and share with and debrief with at the end of the day. So I just want to open your mind to, could you do more consulting? Could you do more contracting? Are there other professionals that you could potentially, um, partner with? Is there a franchise or, some sort of med spa or some sort of wellness center franchise that you could be a part of? Those are all things that are outside of job boards, but aren't just building, your own singular business. And I do apologize, I still don't have my chat box. Let me try. Oh, there it is. It's weird. It's not popping over. Let me try this again. I'm going to try closing out and then opening this back up. So I do apologize if you're commenting and I'm not able to see it. It should pop back up here in a second, hopefully. Anywho, sorry about that. We'll give it a second for it to pop up. So, oh, there it is. Yay. Casey, thank you. They'll give you a month free, just cancel. Yes. For LinkedIn, you can sign up for a trial membership. Just do not forget to close that out before that date because they will just automatically charge you. Emily said, usually messaging the recruiter on LinkedIn requires us to pay. Yes, that's what I was referring to. Yep. How long of a message is appropriate for this? I would say keep it as short and sweet as possible. I'd say no more than just a short paragraph. So it should just encompass those three things we talked about, and it should be very specific. ZipRecruiter, Indeed, many fake jobs posted. Yes, I actually prefer LinkedIn over all of the other job boards personally. I feel like there's more vetted opportunities there, and it's all in one, so Um, you can actually see the employer's website. You can see the people that work there. You can actually cross-reference and see if the job is actually posted on there as well. So you might consider just using LinkedIn at this point. I find that I really love Google, and they have a job board section now where you can actually see, from all of the different job boards. But what I find, unfortunately, there's a lot of fake stuff on there, a lot of scams. And sometimes it's really hard to identify scams because they've gotten really good with AI. So you have to be really careful. Olivia said, I almost got scammed. I'm so sorry. It feels so violating. Okay. Thank you all for your comments. And sorry that I missed the chat there for a minute. We are back on track though. Okay. So setting yourself up for success. So I didn't want today's webinar to just be about how to optimize your resume and cover letter, because again, I want you to start thinking about how do you get yourself off of paper and out there building a brand, creating visibility. But I will say, if you are applying for jobs on job boards, you most definitely want to optimize your resume, build yourself a base resume, and tailor your resume every time you apply for a position. You can use AI to do that. And if you aren't an AI person, I would say always use the job description as your launching point. So go back to that job description, whatever bullet points of qualifications that that employer is looking for. Please keep in mind that you don't have to meet every criteria unless it is a specific credential. But, soft skills, hard skills, bring those over. Make sure those exact words are on your resume and your cover letter. Make sure that you're really tailoring it so any application tracking systems are going to see those keywords and get you hopefully to a human. Again, the LinkedIn profile is really important. Using that not only for your own visibility and to tell your story and to highlight your accomplishments, but also to use that for networking and finding positions as well. Um, One of the things that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about bringing in your own personal stories and bias. I'd say when we're behind a computer applying for jobs for weeks on end, we're not really practicing communication. We're practicing some of our written skills, but once we get that interview, which will happen eventually, right? We go, oh, I'm really, 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 really nervous, right? Like I haven't spoken to a recruiter or a hiring manager in so long. So I think it's important to communicate and to actually go to any in-person events where you can practice that communication as much as possible. So career fairs, industry events, networking events, Chamber of Commerce events, getting out there and practicing some of your skills can be extremely helpful when you do get to that interview. Because if you haven't had to articulate your skills and your unique value proposition in a long time, it might feel a little choppy at first. So don't wait until that first interview to do that. And then it's really important if you are on job boards, you are applying to set yourself maybe a goal. So, because, burnout is real. I talked to somebody the other day that said they had applied for 50 jobs that week. That, in my mind, is just too much. And I personally believe, and this is not everyone's mindset, but I personally believe in quality over quantity. So taking your time with these applications versus just kind of blasting um, and just seeing what sticks. So in order to kind of track your progress and your follow-up strategy, it's important to keep yourself a spreadsheet and really kind of figure out, how many realistic applications can I get in this week? When you do get them in, to track those. And within a week of applying, I'd say it's important to send a follow-up message if you haven't heard back. And you can do that via uh, the employer's website directory, or you can do that via LinkedIn if you're able to. And then I think also creating a space, whether it's a physical or a mental space for the job search. Um, I feel like I talk to a lot of defeated people right now, and I don't want that. It's not, it just hurts, right? It hurts to kind of talk to people that feel really deflated. And I think part of that feeling is just being kind of burn out on the process of just sending out your information over and over and over again, spending hours on an application and not hearing back. It can be really hard. So finding time for fun and for self-care and for debriefing, and you can always use me for that. If you ever wanted to talk through your feelings about, the job boards and how you're feeling about the current market. Um, Carving out that space, both to have some kind of uninterrupted space to get these things done, but also that mental space of, hey, I'm doing the best I can. This is the market that we're in. And what are some things that are going to fill up my cup or bring me joy? How can I get back to being excited again about, this potential opportunity that's out there waiting for me somewhere? So staying connected to that. I'm a big believer. I have like three different schedules that I use. So keeping things on a schedule, including your downtime, like, hey, I'm going to do applications from 12 to 1, and then I'm going to go for a walk from 12 or from 1 to 2. Like schedule it out if you find yourself spending 5 hours on your computer at a time, right? And then using tools like Grammarly, ChatGPT, MailSuite, letting technology work for you. Does anyone have any comments or questions at this point? I found that volunteering can be a benefit. Yes, Rich. Yes, volunteering is also a great resume booster and can be used as experience. So thank you for providing that tip because yes, volunteering is really an amazing option and it can keep you tied to your why as well. 5 hours is a long time. It's amazing, Olivia, because people do it. Yeah. I mean, think about too, if you're a student on top of it in online classes and you're trying to apply for a job, 5 hours is not it's not something that is that what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like that's pretty common to spend 5, 6 hours behind a computer all day. Kelly's done it. Yes. Microsoft Office 365 has its own error correcting AI. Perfect. I love all of these ideas and all of these tips and tools. Thank you so much for sharing. Awesome. So, some strategies that we have not talked about yet. Looking for internships and apprenticeships. So, this goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning. What are some companies, professionals, organizations that really interest you? Um, what are some brands that really interest you? And how can you get involved, whether it's paid or unpaid? How can you somehow get involved with that organization? I was just talking to somebody yesterday about them needing additional help with research, with some administrative duties. You know, a lot of these holistic health companies are small and they really need extra support. So there is nothing wrong with sending an email to a professional and saying, I really love what you do. Could I job shadow with you for a day? Here's, give a little information about who you are and what you specialize in, what you're going to school for, etc. Um, but also that can be said for internships and apprenticeships. Students and alumni often come to me and say, I would like to get an internship or an apprenticeship. I want to start applying some of my skills in a real world way. I think that's absolutely wonderful. The problem is the programs that you're in here do not require an internship, right? They don't require work study. They don't require an apprenticeship like some other programs might. And so we have to kind of seek these things out on our own and build these internships and apprenticeships through those relationships that we're building. But they're extremely valuable and in a lot of cases can lead to full-time employment. I'm curious if anyone has ever had an internship or apprenticeship or even a job shadow. If you have, I'd love to hear how that went for you. Informational interviews are also a fantastic option of just going in and talking to an employer or a hiring manager, or even somebody in a position that you're looking to enter into and asking questions about their role, the things they love about it, the things that are challenging. It's also another way for you to understand where point of entry might be for you. When I was in my undergraduate, I was going for a bachelor's in human services, and I had 3 internships and found out of all of the three, I didn't want to do any of the 3 things that I interned for. And I wouldn't have known that had I not had that personal experience working in those roles, even just temporarily. So I think it's also really good information for you. Okay, no comments yet. In terms of building your own practice, I think some key points here, whether you are going to be an independent contractor or whether you're just going to be doing your own thing from home or maybe renting some space, I think it's important to develop your niche. Like I was saying, there are so many health coaches out there. There are so many wellness professionals out there, some of which don't have even half of the education that you do. And so I think really trying to develop a niche or a value proposition that's really clear how you help your particular audience solve their problems, right? So really kind of dialing it down and making it simple and being able to be very clear, sharing your story and and really developing um, a very easy way for people to connect with you, right? So whether that's through a website or offering some sort of public speaking engagement, being able to be open and flexible and having different ways to meet people is going to be really important and being very clear about what you do. I think if you're too general, it can be really hard to articulate how you bring in that unique kind of value. So just thinking about that. And it doesn't mean that you have to like know everything today or dial it down to like such a specific niche that it kind of puts you in a corner. But I just think really kind of getting clear on what it is that drives you and how that's going to help benefit your community. And then also looking at like what we were looking at before, what are some growing areas and how can you tap into that? How can you kind of blend all of your experiences together? So you might focus on holistic nutrition with mental and emotional health, or you might talk about how you're a gut brain connection specialist or something like that, where you're really kind of integrating multiple things together. And then we already talked about this, considering partnerships. Um, and then I think it's really important. I don't know how many of you here today are students versus alumni. Obviously, when you're in school, you have less capacity to take on more, but I think it's important to always stay up to date with the changing research, with the growing ideas in the field, and building your resume and showing that you're constantly learning by taking micro credentials, classes through Coursera, finding ways to kind of learn emerging modalities that you can continue to integrate into your practice. And that's whether you're building your own business or whether you are going into the field in another way. Showing that you're constantly learning can be extremely valuable. And I think it's fun for you too. It kind of shakes things up. You learn something new and you kind of get outside of your normal routine. We already talked about building content, and then um, monitor industry developments to identify opportunities for expansion. So you can use things like ONET online, which I'll type in the chat here. I think it's ONET online. That's a great place. Also, just your labor and bureau statistics. Um, Talking to people like me and other career coaches who have their finger on the pulse, can be really, really helpful as well. And then lastly, considerations and challenges. We talked about the market, right? And we talked about how to kind of set yourself apart. Um, Having a distinct, strong brand or niche do matter. We talked all about that. Regulations and standardization is less mature than conventional healthcare, and it also really depends on where you live. So if you're a nutrition professional and you're in a restrictive state, you're obviously going to have more barriers than somebody who's in a state that doesn't have those restrictions, right? So I think really understanding what regulations you have to work with, what your market is where you live, doing that market research, seeing who else is already doing this, and really kind of diving into, where is that foundation, and how do I tap into it? But I think it's important to know what credentials are going to matter for your particular industry. So if you're a health coach, I think it's really important that you think about the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching. That's going to make you more competitive, and it's a well-recognized credential that's really needed in most health coaching positions these days. Um, if you're a nutrition professional and you want to do medical nutrition therapy, maybe you think about the CNS pathway. But I think it's important to think about the credentialing, not just the degree that you're going to need to stand out and to be able to have more opportunity. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? I know that's a big question, but feel free. If I can't answer it today, I will get back to you. But I think credentialing is a really important piece of this. And then also demonstrating results. I think it's also really important to show that you can back up everything you're saying with science, right? And evidence. And to be able to not only share the story of you, but also, all of the work you've done here to learn about looking at the evidence, looking at the science, digging in and understanding, why, like giving the why as to, why integrative health modalities can benefit an organization or a community, and being able to really articulate that clearly, and showing your references, and in some cases even getting yourself published, right? Like building that resume for yourself. If you are interested in getting published, there are lots of ways to do that, even through Amazon, right? Like there are a lot of ways to get your name out there and to show the research that you've been doing. And then integration with health systems can be slow. So I get the question a lot. I want to work in a hospital. I want to be a nutrition professional. But then you go and you look at the job boards and it's just registered dietitians is what they're looking for, right? There's nothing we can do to change that. That is just the reality. But there are a lot of places, a lot of clinics, a lot of mainstream healthcare um, organizations where you would be able to really benefit those patients and clients. So I think it's thinking outside of the box. How do I carve a path for myself? How do I show that value? How do I kind of get that point of entry? But being realistic that you're not going to be able to find that position, with an associate's degree in a hospital. It just doesn't exist yet, but it will, hopefully. That's the goal here, right? Hopefully, as this continues to grow, we will find that there are more positions out there um, in those environments like hospitals and clinics and things like that. So I hope that all makes sense. I know it's a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions about any of this? Not seeing any questions yet. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being open. Thank you for working on yourself and your professional development. It's really important. I am here for you. You can schedule with me anytime at this link. I do one-on-one individualized career coaching appointments. I help you find positions. I help you with your resume, your LinkedIn, kind of one-stop shop. And Timely Care also has some career coaching opportunities as well. So don't forget about them. And thank you all. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And Kelly wanted to ask a question, but can't remember. Hey, I feel that today too. So thank you all and have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks, Casey.